Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I have a very cool video for you guys, something that I specifically told you I wasn't really doing. I'm gonna make a tier video talking about the January 2021 format. I've seen a lot of people do this online and I have vocalized my criticism about them not being wrong or taking like the wrong takes, so I kind of wanted to do my own version of it. Of course, in the earlier video, I said that tiers really wouldn't work except when you're looking at the entirety of the meta. But I found a very solid uh, tier maker with like basically every deck that you should talk about and that you should take into consideration. Now I'm quickly going to talk about what I think should be tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, or rogue. There's also an Orcus tier, apparently someone made that. So I'm gonna put the unplayable stuff, the stuff that you really shouldn't be doing. So what I'm considering for this tier is tier 1 will always be in the top cut. Tier 2 can be in the top cut and can win. Tier 3 can still win and participate and get into the top cut, but it's more unlikely. Rogue is really player dependent most of the time. A lot of these decks are player dependent heavily. And Orcus is basically what you just shouldn't bring to a tournament because it's just not the right state of your gear right now. So without further ado, let's go straight into it. And let's put one thing on the end so that we can have the final review of my own bias there. So starting off with ABC, it's a very cute deck right now. It can do very solid combos. Is it good enough? I really don't think so. So I'm going to put this in the Orcus. I don't think that you should bring this to a tournament. Then we have the Malfi pile. This is a deck that flat played and he had some quite the success with it. Of course, it is very player dependent. But I haven't really seen any other success with this deck specifically. So I'm just going to put this in tier 3. Just, I don't think this is the best quote-unquote pile deck you should play. It's probably something more Outlick, Dragoon orientated. So I'm going to put this at the tier 3. We have the Construct. The Fusion Schedule deck, like the heavy with Alistair, stuff like that, has really gone down in popularity, but the Trap Schedule is definitely back. This is definitely a deck to, keep in the back of your mind because it's just so versatile with the Sinister Shadow game, sending Aria or Dragon or anything else. So this is a very solid tier 2 deck right now. It's being very popular actually. So yeah, definitely solid tier 2. Zoo Outlick, I'm also quite vocal about how I'm not liking this deck. I don't really think that these are two engines that are meant to be together, but you cannot deny the success, so this is definitely solid tier 2. Then the Prankits, this is a deck that was promised to be really good, but just hasn't. I think this is a tier 3 deck. It has a very solid end board, but I don't think it's the best option for this meta. Being very normal summon dependent can be really stopped by more control decks, and there are a lot of control decks. And this is a card that I and Sam, a deck that we've really talked about in our discussion earlier, which is Striker. We both don't think that Striker has been tested enough, so I'm going to put this in tier 3. I definitely think this can be way better, but it's just not now. I don't think there's a correct list. There are still a lot of decks to, deal with, so it's really difficult for Striker to properly build their deck, but I'm 100% sure this deck could be better, but it's just very unexplored at the moment. Solomon Great. This is Rogue. This is nowhere close to the tier list. This deck dies to everything. People say in its defense that it can kill you out of nowhere, but then again, this deck dies to everything. It cannot beat the tier 1 deck, so let's just keep it at that. Then we have Dragon Mates. I haven't really seen this deck popping off. I think it's kind of similar to Dragon Link. Dragon Link is a better end board, I think, but I just haven't seen enough of the Dragon Mates. I'm just going to put both of them at tier 3. And to kind of add to that, we also have the Infernoble, which is a deck that has been seeing a lot of success with online play at the moment. Again, a deck that I haven't really seen picking it up, so I'm going to put these 3 decks at tier 3. These are the decks that I know the least of, or that I haven't seen anything of really. I think Dragon Link is very good. I also have a video about that on my channel. I really like the deck, but I think it's better than the other decks, so I'm just going to put it right in front. But I just haven't seen enough about Dragon Mates in my defense. Then we have the Dragoon. I'm gonna count these as the pile decks, the very 60 cards, play every good card, good stuff decks. They have been doing quite well. Dragoon is a very solid card. Virtual World has a lot of problems outing it. And I'm gonna put it as at tier 2 because it's very solid, very toolbox deck. It can do like a lot, but it can also do not enough. So I'm just going to put this right here. Downos have lost their popularity a lot. They don't have a good matchup versus any of the tier 1 decks that we are going to get out of there real quick. This is definitely tier 3 right now. It's nowhere near tier 2. It just hasn't got, the grind or the option to play through the traps like the tier 1 decks have. Then we have Virtual World tier 1, definitely a control combo hybrid. Virtual World has the options to go first, Virtual World has the options to go second. It has a very strong grind game. Definitely a deck that just deserves to be there. So let's put it at tier 1. Other tier decks of this format are the Outlook deck, being one of the better control decks, having near infinite resources. So, of course, up until a certain point, but it's really difficult for the other control decks to beat that. Definitely tier 1 right now. Then we have Drytron. With the XYZ coming out, it's definitely tier 0 or near tier 0, but until that point, it's definitely tier 1. Vanity's Ruler just stops an insane amount of decks, and this deck is very strong on its own already. It has a very solid engine, just tier 1, there's no discussion in that. Then 2 quick ones. Heroes is still missing too much. Thunder still not good this format. It doesn't play through back row very well, and it doesn't combo through VFD very well, so leave it at that. And we have a solid... I really like back row decks this format. I don't think that Altergeist can play the precise amount of cards that you need, but for example, Multifaker and Ice Dragon Prison kind of conflict in a certain way. I think there are just better trap decks out there, like Paleo Guru, but that's just to keep Altergeist at tier 3. Keep it in there. And then we have Pure Zoo. I don't think it's good, just as good as Eldlik Zoo. I don't think tier Zoo is in the best place right now because, of course, normal summon dependent, just like the prank kits. So I don't think this is very good for tier 2. I think this is a solid tier 3. For Mystic Mine, I'm gonna put this as Rogue. It has, it can still get some free wins versus some matchups, but people have been maining back row removal and definitely deciding it, so I don't think this is a great option to play. And with PK, BA, I'm gonna put this as both Phantom Knights and Burning Abyss because I don't think there's a lot of, there are just so many similarities and you can play the decks together very well. I'm gonna put both of them as a solid tier 3. This is a very strong deck. Don't sleep on this deck. Joshua Oosters has been working a lot on it, and I have a couple of videos on my channel as well, showing the power of this deck. It can definitely contend, which is why it deserves to be here, not in Rogue. Adamantipator, solely putting it at tier 3 because of Sam. I believe that this deck can have a very solid tier 1 board. It can have a very solid end board. Or turn 1 board that has a very solid chance to play through going second. Just very spam heavy. This deck is very solid. Also, don't sleep on this. You have the Alistair, I'm gonna put this at tier 2. It sadly dies to the same thing that the Drytron deck dies to, and that isn't really good for the deck. But it's still better than like the things that are down here. Just opening Alistair Servant is just insane. It's so much value. We have another tier 3 deck. I'm gonna put Paleo in front of the Geist. So this is more of a what is viable right now. You have a chance at winning versus you have the bigger chance at winning. And Paleo is definitely a very good deck depending on the player. You have to activate your cards just right. I'm gonna put this all the way over here actually. I cannot put it behind it. There we go. It deserves to be in the tier 3. It's better than Altergeist in the way that it has more generic traps that it can play and it has more toolbox. But it doesn't, outshine the other control deck, which we'll talk about in a bit. Then this card is this deck, Life Twins. It's Rogue. It's good with engines, but that's it. It's just not that good. No one really expected it to be good anyway. Then I'm gonna put Guru at tier 2. First of all, I'm biased, so I'm gonna put this at tier 2. But I have a theory behind this. First of all, the engine of this deck is better than the engines of the other decks. Altergeist is, kind of okay, but it's just not the format for that stuff. Altergeist really dies to Vanity's Ruler too. And the Paleo engine, frogs can be good, but one swap frog will not bring you anywhere. You need to turn after that as well. But one Guru or one Hidden City rather is just insane. Hidden City is a +2. This deck has the, kind of the smallest engine of cards you should play. So you have the biggest range of cards you can play in addition to that for consistency or for disruption. And overall, I just think that the engine is better, making it a tier 2 deck, making this one of the best, contenders. This doesn't necessarily die to anything Virtual World does, doesn't necessarily die to anything Triaton or Eldlik does, so this is a very solid matchup versus the tier 1 decks. It's getting a little bit more difficult versus the tier 2 decks, but this deck can just, properly side or main deck or anticipate, This deck is just it just has a high variety of things it can do and play now, which is why I think it deserves to be tier 2 over the other control trap decks, which are semi-similar to it. So that's my tier video for you guys. I hope you liked it. Do you think I'm very wrong? Let me know in the comment section down below why Gazelle is tier 1 right now, which you do you. But yeah, let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.